Let's look at the bombshell from Tanko Yakasai, of course, another stakeholder, the man who will be clocking 100 years anytime soon. He have blasted the likes of Atiku, Erufai, Malami, and made rubbish of all their position sequel to seeking to return power to the North come 2027. In this piece, we are going to be analyzing. He's not emphatic that the man Tubu is going to win the election. And of course, he made it very clear that, contrary to the opinion of other Northerners, that Tinubu have not done anything wrong to the North. And of course, I will allow you listen to what he said, and because he was actually interviewed by Vanguard newspaper. I'll bring up to speak with what he said so that we can analyze it together. Let me allow you hear what he said. Of course, he said when he was asked about the 2027 presidential election, he said, I haven't heard anybody making any proposition about the 2027 presidential election from the Arewa Consultative Forum as of today. You know what they said, that most of the things being said and credited to Arewa Consultative Forum and other northern groups are mostly individual opinions. He said, to the best of my knowledge, and I should know, the North as a region is here to take a collective stand on the 2027 election. Look at where it gets tricky. He said, if I may ask, who else has what it takes to move into the presidential contest with the kind of stamina and strength to be more successful than Tinubu? It's a question he's asking. You go further to say that he's talking about Tinubu this time around. He said he hasn't done anything against the North, in my understanding. And to be objective, neither the North nor any other part of Nigeria alone can decide who the president of this country becomes. Let me quickly say that the area that catch my attention is two areas. One, the area of saying that all the opinion being raised in the North are individual opinion. That does not reflect the collective interest and opinion of Arewa Consultative Forum. We understand that Arewa Consultative Forum with so much influence and power in the North in terms of molding the opinion of the North when it comes to politics. But currently, we are seeing another statesman who knows the politics of the North coming out to say that with all the noise Atiku is making, Erufai is making, Malami, Babachilawa, and co, that as it stands, that it is a personal opinion. Even the likes of Dr. Gados Galulu, who have made it very clear that come 2027, that a Northerner is going to take over. From what this other statement is talking about, he's saying that the Arewa Consultative Forum as a body have not actually come together to take any decision. And again, like I told you, where it gets tricky is he made it emphatically clear that even the Tubu have not done anything against the North. That's against this, contrary to the opinion of most Northerners. But at some point, we heard the likes of Kwankwaso accusing the president and the government of marginalizing the North. I think that happened specifically in the time they were trying to do the tax reform piece. Because the Kwankwaso was emphatic that the government of Tubu was trying to take away the revenue of the North, particularly yes, and take it to the southwestern part of the country. And apart from this, we're actually seeing this Tanko Yakasai saying very clearly that no other person will have the stamina to contest against Tubu, particularly from the North. So, but what we are saying is, personally, for certain presidency, come 2027, the North haven't governed for 8 years. I believe that that tacit agreement or written agreement that exists between the North and the South that says that if a North govern for 8 years, the South have to govern for 8 years. I believe that that tacit agreement must be respected. So to that extent, for certain presidency. And if you look at those who may be contesting the presidency from the South come 2027, the man Tubu is there. You have another man, P2B, and there's a possibility of a Jonathan as being started that is not an ambition to contest. So for me, the South must complete their 8 years in office before the North will have the opportunity to govern. But again, going deeper into this, I think That best explains the reason Tubu himself is already making a serious inroad into the north. Because recently, we saw, even after CPC members of APC, before now, came out clearly to say that they are for, of course, the coalition. The likes of Malame, the likes of Erufai and co. We saw a situation where Al-Makura Group came out under the same CPC to endorse Tinubu for 2027 and even his current administration. Even recently, we have equally seen a situation where some members of state chairman of CPC, under APC as well, will go and visit an article and, of course, trying to identify with the coalition. But as soon as that happened, we only saw a larger number of the same state chairman, former state chairman of CPC, coming out to say that those who went to visit Atiku went there on their own personal ground, and that they are few in number, that their interests, their opinion, do not represent the opinion of the larger interests of the CPC members as we have it, who are in APC. So currently, I want to say that it is going to be a Herculean task for the man Atiku if he decides to throw his heart into the ring. Because to have it, generally speaking, the South believes that it is their turn. They not having governed for 8 years. I have a good number of opinions in the North that says that the South must be allowed to complete their 8 years. So you now go to show that the opinion of the likes of Dr. Garos Galolo, the opinion of the likes of course, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, the opinion of Atiku himself, even Malami, Babachilawa and co, may not have so much weight. Consider the fact that even the North itself is divided on this. We understand that in the build-up to 2023 presidential election, even the likes of El-Rufai, the likes of Ganduje, the former governor of Kano State, who of course, the immediate past national chairman of APC, were at the forefront of drumming support for Tinubu presidency. Owing to the fact that they wanted the power to return to the South, did not have a government for 8 years. But in the surprise twist of events, we are seeing an El-Rufai that want to truncate a Tinubu's tenure, of course, a southern tenure, and want the power to return to the North. Personally, like I said, I will always maintain I am for southern presidency. Then again, you have to equally look at this deeper. Because there is another perception that where the North feel that a Tubu is marginalizing the North. Of course, I want to say that even at that, a Buhari set the stage for lopsidedness in Nigeria. Because under Muhammadu Buhari, we saw a situation where he clearly told the southeastern part of the country, of course, the Igbos, that they gave him 5% vote and that they're going to receive 5% attention. And this is what he did in all his 8 years as a president. We have a situation where in Nigeria, we have about 17 positions when they talk about security positions. Talking about from the office of the National Security Advisor to the office of Chief of Air Staff, Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Chief of Army Staff, Director of DSS, DG Custom, DG Drug Law, Road Safety. We are talking about 17 positions. Under a Muhammadu Buhari, they not took 14 or 13 or so and left only about 4 or 3 for the whole South. That is a high level of lopsidedness. And at the time, every attempt to make a Buhari government see reason why it should balance balance it has always met brick wall. As they will always say then that everybody being appointed is based on competence. That time we begin to wonder, ask, does it mean you find only competency in the northern part of the country? But again, currently we have seen northern stakeholders who will at some point come out to say yes, that after their complaint that a Tinubu's government have come up to give not some level of more appointments. So I'm going to show that if you are even doing comparison, the Tubu is having more listening ear than Buhari, because we are going to see that the North themselves, Northern figure themselves, stakeholders, often come out to clarify that after they complain, that the government actually came out and give their attention, give their complete attention by giving them more appointments. But let me quickly say at the point that the southeastern part of the country needs to govern Nigeria. This is not far-fetched, because if you go deeper into the tacit agreement that talks about zoning, if you probe it further, you agree with me that the southeast, or rather call it the Igbos, have not governed Nigeria since the inception of this nascent democracy. Because we are talking about the major ethnic groups in Nigeria, we are talking about the Yorubas, the Igbos, and the Hausas. So if you are looking at zoning, of course, I understand there is no regarding zoning, and there is no constitutional provision that says that a particular zone must produce president for in a particular dispensation. However, if you go deeper into that zoning arrangement or this agreement, that tacit agreement about zoning that says if you not govern for 8 years, you have to come to the South for 8 years. You understand that the South have taken turn twice. The first time under, the first time under former President Olusegun Obasanjo. The second time under former President Goodluck Jonathan. Of course, Goodluck Jonathan from the South was in the saddle for 6 years, and Obasanjo from the southwestern part of the country was in the saddle for 8 years. And as we have it, a Tubu from the southern part of the country is already in the saddle more than 2 years running. And since the inception of this democracy in 1999, the Southeast have not governed. So that's why I said if we are going to look deeply into this zoning arrangement or this agreement, that the Southeast should be more favored by giving them a sense of belonging to govern. Because if you look at issues of agitation for secession, you agree with me to an extent that when the people who agitate, of course, who lead the agitation, point out areas of marginalization, it will gain more ground. People will likely easily sign on to the agitation if everywhere they point to is marginalization. That's why I'm of the view that the southeastern part of the country, the Igbos must be given an opportunity to govern the country. I'm equally of the view that let us even review this our constitution to reflect zoning in our constitution, to the extent that let the zoning be compulsory, that it must reflect across the 6 geopolitical zones. So that once your zone governs, you wait for the next turn, it will come to your zone. And even in that arrangement, let us have a situation where we'll be having 5 vice presidents. So that once the president that picks the ticket from a particular geopolitical zone picks the ticket, the other 5 remaining zones will produce 1 presidential candidate each. I'm advocating for a system that will be unique to our system, because it's not certain that you must follow the system you adopt in terms of democracy, like the way you adopted it from other regions. You must practice what works for you. And again, we can equally look at cabinet system of government, similar to what I've just explained. A situation where, of course, if you have the prime minister, you have deputy prime ministers, 5 of them, from each and every geopolitical zone. And in that case, let their tenure be, of course, 6 years. And in that period of 6 years, after the expiration of 1 year, the prime minister steps down. Another prime minister from another zone takes over. Let them take turn to retain the presidency among all the 6 geopolitical zones in terms of prime minister within that 6 period. So at the end of the 6 period, all of them will step aside. In that case, there's nothing like rotation. It goes to show that any party that wins, they form government, and after forming government, they now have 6 deputy prime ministers in addition to the prime minister, who of course is seen as first among equal, primus inter pares. Now, after the first prime minister governed for 1 year, he steps aside, another person takes over from another region who was before then a deputy prime minister. Then the former prime minister now becomes a deputy prime minister. Now they will not take turn to complete that circle. After 6 years, all the region would have governed successfully. That way we are not zoning, and it is a good system, I must say, if we're able to look in that direction. Because for me, we must look at what worked for us. It's not about how we inherited the democracy. Democracy, as we have it, the tenets, it been molded by individuals, by some persons. So you can absorb it, imbibe it, and model it the way it best suits your society. Because the whole essence of governance, the whole essence of government is to meet the demand of the people. And if the people are not willing, are not ready, are not seeing the government as a good way of governance, I want to say that it will not ultimately be good for everybody. Because even the Bible says, can two work together except they agree? Of course, for persons to work together, they must agree. That is why I'm advocating that let us come together in form of whether constitutional national conference or whatever body that we may constitute to tinker with the idea of how do we continue being together. What is the modus operandi? Because for me, the constitution that binds everybody today, the grand norm, was imposed on Nigerians by, of course, the North. I say the North because we had a situation where the military is one that imposes constitution, and it was the military, the northern military head of states who did that. So what they mainly did is they choose areas that. So what they mainly did that they choose areas and individuals who will be part of the constitution drafting committee and to serve their personal interests. At the end of the day, they impose the constitution on everyone. And if you go to the preamble of that constitution, it tells you that the people of Nigeria came together to write that constitution. For me, that's the greatest fraud. Because at no point in time in the history of Nigeria did Nigerians gather together to write that constitution. The best option is let us have a national discourse to discuss how best we want to govern ourselves going forward. I must say, very big thank you for your time. This is Sadler Migan and Samatu.